Hello, everybody. This is Jim Ransom, your weekend poetry reader, and I sometimes I only know what I'm going to read a short time before I read it to you. That's what helps keep things exciting. Today, however, is not quite that way. I decided that maybe what we better do today is to focus our attention a little bit on Irish poetry. After all, yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, and I try to avoid drinking green beer. Who knows what that green dye will do to your insides? However, Guinness Stout is pretty close to being an Irish product, and I love it. So that's what I had yesterday. Yes, it's not green. It's sort of dark chocolate, brown, black, whatever you want to call it. But it's stout after all. That's what it's called. I thought you might appreciate some modern Irish poetry for this season. And I chose two poets and two poems for today. Let's start with the first one by William Butler Yeats. And some of you will probably be familiar with this because it's been around since at least 1919. And its title is An Irish Airman Foresees His Death by William Butler Yeats. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight, I do not hate. Those that I guard, I do not love. My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen Kiltartans poor. No likely end could bring them loss or leave them happier than before. Nor law nor duty bade me fight, nor public men, nor cheering crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed a waste of breath. A waste of breath, the years behind. In balance with this life, this death. Well, as I mentioned earlier, this poem was published in 1919. And of course, it's referring to fighting in the Great War, what we here in America tend to call World War I. But throughout most of Europe, it's called the Great War. And that's when aircraft first appeared on the battlefields of Europe. Yeats says in the person of the airman he's talking about, he says he enjoys flying so much that he is willing to find his death in the clouds. He can't see much future for himself after the war. And it is only a lonely impulse of delight that drove him to participate in what he calls this tumult in the clouds. He is pretty sure he won't survive, and he really doesn't care. That is not at all untypical or atypical of Irish romanticism, in which death is never very far away, and it's never seen as a monster to fear. The Irish have a very different idea of death, or at least they did then. The next slightly longer poem I want you to hear is by Eavan Boland. Eavan Boland, B-O-L-A-N-D. Eavan, E-A-V-A-N, is the feminine form of the Irish Gaelic for a woman's name, which the male version is Evan. The women's version wasn't used much, but the masculine form is a common Irish man's name, Evan. I only recently discovered Eavan Boland and do like her poetry a lot. The poem I'm reading today has a melancholy tone, which is not unusual in Irish poetry, and seems to me to bring back the longing of early Irish immigrants coming to America, but also echoes perhaps Eavan Boland's own history, about which there will be more later. The poem is called The Lost Land by Eavan Boland. I have 2 daughters. They are all I ever wanted from the earth, or almost all. I also wanted one piece of ground, one city trapped by hills, one urban river, an island in its element. So I could say, mine, my own, and mean it. Now they are grown up and far away, and memory itself has become an emigrant, wandering in a place where love dissembles itself as landscape, where the hills are the colors of a child's eyes, where my children are distances, horizons. At night, on the edge of sleep, I can see the shore of Dublin Bay, its rocky sweep, and its granite pier. Is this, I say, how they must have seen it? Backing out in the mailboat at twilight, shadows falling on everything they had to leave and would love forever. And then I imagine myself at the landward rail of that boat, searching for the last sight of a hand. I see myself on the underworld side of that water, and darkness coming in fast, saying, all the names I know for a lost land. Ireland, absence, daughters. Well, I think it's a powerful poem. I find it quite moving. And I've read some of her other poems, and I think this is perhaps the best one I came across anyway. Eavan Boland was the daughter of a diplomat, an Irish diplomat, and a painter. She was sent back to Ireland to attend secondary school in Killiney and later university at Trinity College in Dublin. Though still a student when she published her first collection called 23 Poems, and that was way back in 1962. That would have put her in at around 20 years old. Boland's early work was informed by her experiences as a young wife and mother. That happened pretty early in her career. And her growing awareness of the troubled role of women in Irish history and culture. Ireland has not always been kind to its women, at least not in literature. And Boland's poetry is known for subverting traditional constructions of womanhood. And she tried to reconstruct some of those. As time went on, I think you would have to read what she has to say in order to decide whether you agree with it or not. Just a little bit more about her life. She apparently found most of her career in the United States. That's happened to Irish people for almost 2 centuries now, if you think about it. Ireland is a great country to be from, but if you're there, it's somewhat stifling, I think, is what they're trying to tell us. I would like to have you know that reality for her was that she spent most of her years on the faculty of Stanford University, beginning in 1996, where she had an endowed professorship of humanities and a separate endowment as professor of English and director of the Stanford Creative Writing Program. She divided her time between Stanford and Dublin before she died in 2020 at age 76. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our Irish poets today, and that you'll tune in again next week for the program, which I hope will hold some surprises for all of us, including me. But I'm quite taken with a lot of Irish poetry, so it wouldn't surprise me a bit to discover that I had to do Irish poetry once more. And it's good stuff. Okay, that's all for now. Bye.